What makes us not become what we are? What makes us not live in the truth of who we are, which is, as Christ says, sets us free? I don't know if you knew this, but there is an evil one who likes to whisper lies into our hearts about who we are. This is what John says in his gospel. He says, Satan has nothing to do with the truth, because there's no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. This is what he does. I was just on a retreat where we watched a little movie clip from the movie Lion King. And in Lion King, there's Mufasa, the king. And then there's the cub, Simba, Mufasa's son. And then there's the evil one, Scar, who wants to take the throne of the king. And Scar ends up killing Mufasa, but blames it on the son, Simba. And in this movie clip, Scar walks over to Simba and says, Simba, if it wasn't for you, your father would still be alive. And Simba got scared. He's like, what do I do then? What do I do? He said, run away and never return. And we had a discussion about this movie clip, and one guy said, I get it. I get Satan's tactics. He doesn't just destroy us. He whispers a lie into us, and it makes us destroy ourselves. And he attacks our identity. Why? Because everything we do flows out of our identity. That's actually what the word culture comes from. It comes from the Latin cultus, which means a society's expression of who they think they are before God. So what comes outward in art, in the way we talk and dress, is an expression of what we believe interiorly about who we are. And in this talk, that's what I want to address. I want to address the lies of our identity. And I want to address this talk to my generation, Millennials. I'm born in 1996, so I'm at the very last year of the Millennials. So this is also for Gen Z as well, because they're only a year from me. I entitled this talk, Dear Millennials, We Have Been Lied To. I want to divide it into 3 parts. In the first part, I just want to bring to light where we're at as a culture, what millennials are known for. In the second part, I want to go underneath the surface and talk about those identity lies that is making the culture the way it is today. And in the third part, I want to invite you to go on the healing journey, to begin restoring yourself so we can begin to restore the culture that we live in. So let's dive into it. A couple months back, as I normally do, I wake up and I go to work, and my boss, who's the priest here, says, Brendan, come into my office. We're going to talk. We're going to talk culture. He said, sit down. So I sat down, and he says, so tell me, what is the greatest generation that has ever existed? I was kind of thinking and pondering. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, okay, I don't know. What is the greatest generation? Tell me. He said, the greatest generation are the ones that grew up in the Great Depression. They learned humility. And then they fought in World War II. They learned self-sacrifice. They fought and they lived for something greater than themselves. They knew commitment. They were committed to their marriages, their family, and their country. But in the end, what made them the greatest generation is that they lived for something greater than themselves. And he goes on to say, he's like, I've been in ministry for decades, and I've studied culture. And what I see with millennials and now Gen Z is it's the opposite. It's a culture about me, me, me. What can I get out of it? And I will only do something if it benefits and is useful for me. Otherwise, I won't do it. He says, I see 2 kind of categories with your culture. I see one where it's just perfectionism. I work out every day. I got to get the best job, make the amount of money, and I have my identity in those things. And if I don't get all of these things, if I don't succeed in school, then maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I'm not wanted or not good enough. And he said, and then there's another category of rebellion. Don't tell me what to do. Who cares what you do? My body, my choice. And he's like, it's this rebellious attitude. We began to have a discussion about culture and the millennials and what the millennials are known for. And if we take a look, the statistics done by Pew Research in regards to identifying with a certain religion, we are at an all-time high in the United States where 30% identifies as non-religious or not affiliated to a certain religion. We live in a culture where the marriage rate is declining. The people wanting to have children is declining. We grew up in a generation with the television on, with the phone right in our faces. And now we see what studies have shown is that the United States is the second most depressed country. We're suffering from mental health, and women are dying alone more than ever. So how did we get here? This is the culture. This is what's coming out. We have to take a look again underneath the surface at maybe the lie that Satan is whispering into our generation. If we take a look at millennials, we grew up, sadly, in broken homes. 1970 to 1980, the divorce rate was about 53%. That means most of us grew up in a home where our parents were divorced or really broken. And what I learned in my studies at the John Paul II Institute for Marriage and Family is that the child is literally the expression of the spouse's love. Like literally, like if the spouses could say, hey, where's our love at? They can point at the child and say, that right there is an expression of our love. And so if a child sees their parents broken or divorced, they look inwardly at themselves and they see a broken heart. They may feel abandoned. They may feel lost. So that's a part of our generation's upbringing. We also grew up in a lot of Christian homes, but I think the Christianity was more duty. You got to go to Mass. You got to look nice. Why? Because you're supposed to. And so we have this idea of I got to be perfect or else I won't be wanted or loved. And so rightly so, if we grew up in one of those situations, which I think is very common for millennials, we could have this attitude of, don't tell me what to do. Go to Mass, do this. Why? Don't tell me what to do. Or if we grew up in feeling abandoned or lost because of the brokenness of our home, we may have this attitude of like, okay, I'm just going to be me and do whatever I want. Totally understandable. Totally understandable. So I think that's underlying what's kind of at the surface of our culture. I watched recently the movie Frozen. Yes, it's another Disney movie, and no, I don't only watch Disney movies. But I watched this recently and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like what I was going to try to talk about in this talk. This is like where our culture is at. What's the movie Frozen about? Well, there's two little girls, Elsa and Anna, and they grew up in a castle where their parents were the king and queen. And Elsa had these creative, magical powers within her to create and manipulate ice and snow. And one day when they were playing as kids, Elsa accidentally struck Anna in the head and she collapsed. And her parents rushed in and we need to go to the wise trolls, or what the movie calls the love experts. So they get on the horse to go to these wise trolls to learn about what to do with this power that Elsa has. And one of the trolls walks up to Elsa and says, Elsa, your powers will only grow. There's great beauty in it, but also great danger. You must learn to control it. Fear will be your enemy. And her parents thought it was a good idea to say, oh, we'll make her control it. We'll lock the gates. We'll lock all the doors and limit her contact with everyone. In other words, all that creativity within her heart, repress stuff and to look good on the outside. She grew up believing, conceal, don't feel, don't let them know, and be the good girl you always have to be, she sang. And her parents ended up dying in a shipwreck. So she grew up alone, maybe feeling lost, not knowing what to do. And she grew up as an adult, and all of a sudden these powers, this creativity in her started going out in crazy ways. She got scared and she ran away from home. And she sang this song called Let It Go that I think summarizes our culture. I'm not going to sing all of it, but I'm going to sing a little bit of it. She says, it's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go. What did she say there? No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Was she free? No. We later on in the movie see Anna goes to Elsa to try to save her. And Anna says, Elsa, you've kind of set off an eternal winter. Your decision, no right, no wrong, no rules for me, has affected all of creation negatively. I think that's where our culture is at. It's like, what is freedom? It's no right, no wrong, no rules. Like, do whatever you want. But that's not the solution. What we see in the movie Frozen, there is a cure. The wise troll says, only an act of true love can thaw a frozen heart. Love is the answer to the cure of our brokenness. Authentic and true love, which is sacrificial, to give of ourselves for the good of others and to uphold that good. That's what love is. And when we are not experiencing and encountering love intimately, which I think there was a lack of that in our homes, in our generation, we begin to look for that in any place. Sex, money, drugs, fame, you name it. Why do we do this? Well, this is what St. John Paul II says. He says, man cannot live without love. He remains a being that is incomprehensible for himself. His life is senseless if love is not revealed to him, if he does not encounter love, if he does not experience it and make it his own, if he does not participate intimately in it. This is what we are truly made for. This is what John Paul II has brought to light in the theology of the body, that we are created by love, to love and for love. This is what we're made for. This is what we hunger for. And love is ultimately what heals. So now I want to get into the third part. So how do we begin to heal the culture that we live in? You know, when I watch YouTube videos, I always see people pointing out at the world, this is your problem, this is what's wrong with the world. Well, a Russian writer, Leo Tolstoy, says this: everyone thinks of changing the world. And that's good, that is good. But he says, but no one thinks of changing himself. If we want to begin changing the world, we have to look inwardly at ourselves and see what's off. Because we're all wounded and we are all meant to go on the healing journey of redemption. And so the best way I can invite you to that is to share with you my personal journey these past 3 years. And before I get into it, I just want to say I'm going to try to be as sensitive and reverent as possible. Maybe parts of my story may bring up some stuff in you that was from your own past or other pain. And so I just want to be as reverent as possible, as I'm going to be pretty vulnerable with my story. Why did I want to do a deep dive into healing? Well, a couple years ago, I was feeling bitterness, resentment, anger, sadness on the surface. And like I said before, what kind of comes out on the surface is telling us something about what's happening interiorly. One time I went to spiritual direction and the priest said to me, Brendan, these negative feelings and emotions aren't meant to harm you. They're meant to help you. They're meant to teach you about what's going on in your heart. And so I decided, you know what? I want to do some counseling. I want to learn about my story to figure out maybe where these feelings are coming from. And so I did it for about 6 months and oh my gosh, I was humbled. I learned, oh my gosh, I am more broken than I thought. I grew up and I was a pretty skinny, scrawny kid. And as I learned through doing this counseling, I was like, I was kind of bullied. I was verbally bullied. I was picked on. I'll never forget in 5th grade, my brother and his friends in the middle of our front yard pinned me down and I was crying and screaming, let me go, let me go. And they wouldn't let me go and they were just laughing. And I got one leg loose and I kicked one of them in between, you know where. And I got away and I started running and one of them was chasing after me as I was screaming and crying. And I went inside to my mom's embrace. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the feeling. What was the lie that Satan whispered into my heart? You're weak. You're not good enough. Fast forward into high school, my sophomore year, I dated this girl and I felt like I was in love with her and she brutally rejected me. And she started dating my best friend who I felt betrayed by. What was this rejection, this pain? What was the lie attached to it? I'm not good enough. I'm not loved. I'm not wanted. So what do I have to do? I have to be perfect. I have to be great. And then I'll be wanted. That is tiring. I grew up in a home that was not perfect. My parents struggled in their marriage. My mom suffered great depression. She cried a lot in front of me. What did this make me feel? It made me feel isolated, lost. And then into my senior year, I dated this girl who I loved, and right when we started dating, I said this to her, and I said this because of pain and of lack of trust. I said to her, if you ever lie to me, I'm probably going to break up with you. I said it kind of jokingly but serious, and she's like, I get that. 8 months into our relationship, I found out she was Snapchatting a different guy. And on Snapchat, you could see who they Snapchat the most. And I saw she was Snapchatting this guy, and I knew it. And I asked her one day as we were sitting down on the couch, I said, why am I not your favorite on your Snapchat? She said, oh, it's just a tennis teammate of mine. And when she said that, I knew that she lied to me. And I started to distance myself in that moment. And we started hanging out for a little bit longer, and it was time for me to go. And she said to me, Brendan, you're acting distant. What's wrong? Is it about the Snapchat and that you're not on my favorites? And I said, no, it's your tennis teammate. I'm fine. And so we started walking out, and she was behind me, and she said, Brendan. And I turned around. She was crying, and she said, I just lied to you. Are you going to break up with me? We started to talk, and I just said, I need time. I need some time. Long story short, we ended up breaking up. What did this rejection make me feel? Kind of that same lie. I'm not wanted. I'm not good enough. And so this is what fueled me. I need to be great. I need to be perfect, and then I'll be wanted, which is just a lie. And so I was learning all about my story, but the thing is, I wasn't getting a whole lot of healing and freedom from these negative feelings and emotions. So my boss actually told me, you know what, Brendan? I want to send you to the John Paul II Healing Center with Dr. Bob Schutz and Sister Miriam James to do a 4-day healing retreat. And I was like, awesome. Thank you. What a gift. And so 6 months ago, I went on the healing retreat with them. And oh my gosh, it was one of the greatest retreats of my life. I learned so much about healing. What I learned is that in order for healing to take place, because we can know about our past events, we can know about negative things that have happened to us, but in order for healing to take place, we need to go back. We need to take full account of the injustice that happened to us. Because if someone hurt you, there's a debt that they owe you. But what forgiveness is, it's letting go of the debt that they owe you. Because there are two main things that harbor negative feelings and emotions and that fuel sin in our lives in regards to pain that's happened to us. Unforgiveness and Satan whispering lies. That's kind of the gas on the fire. And so what needs to happen is forgiveness needs to take place. And then the lie that we believe about ourselves in those moments needs to be broken. And I began to do that. I began to enter into those places. We have to renounce the lie. So what I did is, in the name of Jesus Christ, I renounced the lie that I am unwanted and that I have to be perfect in order to be loved. And I announced the truth in Jesus' name, that I am wanted, that I am loved, that I am pursued, because that is the truth. And the truth, if we allow that in, that is what sets us free. You know, that girl who lied to me, I actually reconciled with her. We forgave one another for all the harm that we caused to each other. And through that, there was healing, there was restoration, and more freedom. This is what we all need to go on, the journey of our own hearts and bringing it all into the light of Christ. After this healing retreat, I actually talked to Christopher West, and I was kind of laughing because I'm like, Christopher, I'm so broken. I'm so much more broken than I thought. And I was laughing, and he started to chuckle, and he's like, Brendan, you are more broken than you think. But the Lord loves you enough to not reveal all of that to you because it'd probably destroy you. And then he said to me, but brother, you are loved there. You are loved there. That right there is the antidote to healing and to sanctity. It's to know you're loved. I had this prayer experience once where God spoke to me. He said, Brendan, a saint is the one that just knows that they are loved. It's the one who allows love to just enter all parts of their heart so that then they begin to radiate that in the world. You know, the theology of the body changed my life in 2017. And the more I reflect on it, specifically through this journey of mine of healing, the more I reflect on that experience in 2017, It wasn't just a teaching that changed my life. What changed my life is that God spoke to me my identity to the depths of my heart that I'm loved. And I knew for the first time in my life that I am loved. And it set me free. It gave me so much joy because it's the truth. It's the truth of who we are. So I just want to affirm you. Whatever lies you may believe about yourself, I want to invite you to begin to renounce those in Jesus' name. But I just want to affirm you. You're loved. You're wanted. You're desired. You're sought after. You're good. You deserve goodness. You deserve more. Be not afraid. Be not afraid to enter into those places of your heart. As John Paul II says, be not afraid of who you are. Be not afraid to open the doors of your heart to Christ. Be not afraid. I want to encourage those that may be struggling more than others to be courageous. Maybe seek out a counselor, a spiritual director, maybe the healing retreat. I want to invite all of you, check out a Theology of the Body Institute course, the 5-day course where you can enter in to the truth of who you are, which is what John Paul II's Theology of the Body is all about. It changed my life. I bet it could change yours. Anyways, it's good to be with you. Know of my prayers for you. God bless.